Hey, everybody. Welcome to the GMI Rocket Show. Today's episode 96. I'm your host, Roman Zelichenko, former immigration attorney turned tech entrepreneur. I'm the founder of Laborless, which automates H-1B visa compliance, and also the founder of GMI Rocket, which is a digital marketing agency for the immigration and mobility industry, and of course, which brings you this show. Today, again, is episode 96, which is almost at 100. Crazy for me to think about. And we have a repeat guest today who may come back even more times. Our guest today is none other than Jacob Sapochnick. So Jacob Sapochnick is an immigration attorney who's been practicing for several decades in the San Diego area. But he doesn't just practice immigration law. He is a tech investor, an entrepreneur that's been part of a number of different businesses. He's very active on social media with one of the largest immigration attorney accounts on Instagram, and he's very active on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere you want to look. He's there, usually under the handle at San Diego Immigration Lawyer, if you want to follow him. And today we're going to talk about, this episode is part of the M&A series. And so today we're going to talk about how Jacob recently acquired a company called TN Visa Expert. So TN Visa Expert is basically an online-based company that helps individuals file for their TN visa, which of course is for Mexican and Canadian nationals coming into the U.S. And so we're going to talk all about this and why Jacob decided to work with them, what the benefits were of acquiring this company, as an immigration practice, and just his thoughts about M&A in general. So before we jump in there, I do want to say thank you to our main sponsor for this episode, which is Lex Reception. Lex Reception is a legal intake, reception, and client support service. From answering calls and messages in real time to scheduling appointments, Lex Reception provides immigration law firms with 24/7 legal answering specialists, so you don't have to worry about missing a call from a client or a prospect ever again. And in addition to receiving calls, they actually can proactively reach out to prospects that fill out a form on your website or give you a call so that you don't miss potential business. They are very tech forward and integrate with a number of different platforms like Clio, Practice Panther, LawPay, and more, so they can fit into your current tech stack. And for GMI Rocket Show listeners, Lex Reception is offering $250 off your first month of service with them. So if you're interested, click the link in the show notes or just reach out to them and say you heard about them from the GMI Rocket Show. Okay, so without further ado, Jacob, thank you so much for being here, for coming back on the show. I'm excited to talk to you and to dive into a more business aspect of the immigration industry.
Thanks, Roman, for having me. Always a pleasure.
So for those listening and or watching, first of all, I definitely recommend going back to my original episode with Jacob. We really talked about how Jacob came into the immigration industry. Well, first of all, Jacob, we talked about how you came to the U.S. and you're a foreign student. You got an H-1B before there was a cap, which I remember is like crazy to think you just applied for an H-1B and got it
20 years ago.
20 years ago, yeah. And you really grew your practice almost accidentally through blogging and through early days of social media when you didn't really know what it was and what the value was of it, but you put your energy and effort into it, and it got you on TV, it got you onto Facebook, and from there the rest is history. You have one of the biggest accounts. You have 1.6 million followers on Instagram, last I checked, and many others on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, etc. So would you share, I guess I just kind of gave your background a little bit, but would you share a little bit about maybe how you've kind of built your practice over the years? And then I think that'll be a nice way to kind of move into this idea or concept of investment and acquisition for you as an immigration attorney.
First of all, thanks for the nice intro. I think it's it's always kind of good to reflect back. As you mentioned, for me, it was kind of a series of events that happens probably to a lot of people that start a business. I mean, law firm is a business, so it's it's kind of started, as you mentioned, with my intention to be able to try to find as many customers as I could at the time, and so blogging was my first way to be able to present content, which I realized early on that the more information you give away for free, the more people are going to trust you and eventually want to be able to work with you. So obviously blogging was the first platform, and we continue to have our Visa Lawyer blog to this day. But I also realized that you also have to kind of like evolve with technology, right? So the more platforms started to appear, I wanted to test different ones. So Facebook in the beginning, and then Instagram, which we continue to use today, and TikTok, and all the different platforms. I was very active on live streaming platforms like Meerkat and other similar similar to that, where you just we would like live stream on those things, and some of them are not there anymore. Like Vine, we had a Vine account which was quite popular back in the day. So I think the key is to try different things, and the goal of all this is to spread free information about immigration, which was my area. And by doing that, you are able to give people some information that they can at least be educated when they come to speak to an attorney and engage with a consultation. So that's kind of the whole idea. The more you educate people for free and give them the tools to at least inform themselves about what they're supposed to do, then when they come to talk to an attorney, it's a much easier transaction, which is kind of our philosophy to this day. Just give, and then ask in a way for them to work with us. And I think it's continued to be true to this day. I mean, especially, you can see TikTok. There's so many. I mean, I can tell you that in the past 2 years, there's been an influx of attorneys that are doing immigration attorneys that are doing really well because they joined TikTok, for example, and start streaming on TikTok and posting videos. And these attorneys had no clients 3 years ago. And some of these attorneys started their practices in 2019, 2018, and they were struggling. And I've been talking to many of them. And then COVID hit, and they started using TikTok consistently. And to this day, you can see that their practice doubled, tripled, quadrupled. And that's because they realized that if you stay consistent and you spend the time to create the content, it's not a waste of time. It's actually very valuable to do content that is for free. And as a result, people are going to start coming to your channels and eventually engaging with your services. So, I mean, you can see there's literally a huge group of attorneys, specifically in immigration law, that experienced that growth in the past 2 years just because they were on TikTok, Instagram, and maybe even YouTube to try to build their practices. And it will continue to grow with AI. The AI tools, AI technology that helps attorneys to create tools like bots, automated videos, ways for clients to learn about immigration using AI. That's going to continue to grow, and then from those tools, lead them back to your practice and engage with you. And I think that's going to, explode the practice of immigration in the next 2 years if people will learn how to use those tools properly.
So aside from the social media aspect, because you obviously are, a master at that, you've mentored other immigration attorneys and other non-immigration attorneys, but just in general, folks who want to create content. Like you said, you build up the brand, you build up the influx of prospects, but then your firm has to be able to handle that volume. Whether you're filing their cases today or you have a consultation and you determine that you can't help them now, but you somehow keep them in your universe. So what have you thought about from a business standpoint, that has that's allowed your firm to continue to grow with the following that you've gained?
So obviously, the following and the work that you do on the front is just the front. But once you start getting the inquiries and the leads and the work itself, then you have to build systems within the firm to do multiple things. First of all, building the systems of intaking the clients, right? So building automation to be able to receive the inquiries, putting people to handle the phone calls, to follow up. So you build literally systems that are based on automation, but also human capital, that are people actually that will be taking the calls. We have a lot of we have a full sales division at the law firm that handles only intake calls. Over 25 people that do only that. And so that was obviously not built in one day. It's something that evolves over time, which like in any business. And also obviously, the firm is divided into divisions, business, family, investment. So every division has the team, and they work on projects accordingly. So it's kind of like in any business, you have to create the availability to be able to receive the leads, to service them properly, to follow up with them consistently, and obviously to continue to do the work inside the firm so you're able to expand as your intake of clients continues to grow. That's all has to be like, the way I see it is that you have to anticipate your growth, right? So we look in every time, we kind of analyze our team in 6 months increments. What's going to happen in 6 months? Are we ready for the expansion that's going to happen in 6 months? If not, what do we have to do now? So we constantly hire. We're constantly on the lookout for new people, whether it's attorneys, paralegals, intake people, case managers. I mean, how many times have I reached out to you looking for if you have any leads for case managers, for attorneys, because we're constantly looking for people, because we anticipate growth. We're not hiring people when you need to hire them, which is a mistake that many attorneys do. Like, oh my God, I need to hire somebody now. We're hiring people in anticipation. Even if we don't have the work for them at that moment, we will still hire them because we know the work is coming. And that's very important to work with that foresight, because otherwise you cannot expand the team if you don't do it that way.
Yeah. Do you, I guess since we're talking about this particular topic, I think it's really important to anticipate it and to, in parallel, grow the funnel of new leads, and then also grow the support, because that funnel will take some time. Just because you're getting 100 leads today, it will not turn into work tomorrow. It will turn into work in a month or 2 months.
Right.
So do you budget for that period of time where you maybe hire somebody, but the work is not, quote unquote, there yet?
Correct.
Is that all part of the business model of the firm?
Absolutely. Because if you think about it, it takes time to train people, right? It takes time to train good people. And so you want to make sure that you hire them early, train them, and when you need them properly, then they're ready to start working, instead of kind of, throwing them into a position where they need to learn, or they won't be as productive as they need. So I think it's always good to be to anticipate. And I think as kind of segment to what we are eventually going to be talking today, leads are coming from everywhere. They're coming from obviously the marketing that you do, but also a very important side of creating and growing a practice is leads that are coming from referral sources. And some of these referral sources could be, other immigration tech companies or immigration services that are not necessarily law firms, but they do need the attorney services eventually. And these are very, very important sources of referrals for a lot of law firms, because these referrals come to those lead sources. They don't come to you directly, but eventually they're going to be introduced to you. You know what I mean? So that's why, as we continue to expand our firm, constantly looking for new sources of clients. Some of these sources are coming from these third-party, kind of like these tech companies or do-it-yourself online services that offer these immigration tools. And eventually those clients will need attorneys because they won't be able to do it on their own eventually.
So
I'm always looking for those.
And that's a perfect segue. So let's talk about, the sort of the crux of this episode was, your firm's acquisition of a company called TN Visa Expert. I know that, talk a little bit about maybe how you met them. Like, how did you come across them in the first place? And if you can remember, what did you think back then? Did you just think, oh, it's a company, interesting, let me help them? Or did you sort of already have the foresight to say, maybe this can be a partnership down the road? Like, what were those beginning stages? How did you find TN Visa Expert, and how did your relationship grow over time with them?
So it all comes back to your activity online, being out there where people from all walks of life see your videos, your streams. So I've been very active, as you know, on Instagram and YouTube. And so people will reach out to me from, and this is kind of how I connected with, if you remember, Simple Citizen, which was another company that I invested in. And uh, I was an advisor, and eventually the company was acquired by Fragment. But these things all happen because of connections online. And with Team Visa Expert, I met Gulam, who was the founder, and Tim, his co-founder. They both lived in San Diego at the time, and they were introduced by a common friend who was also a tech investor at the time. And I'm talking about, that's over 15 years ago. Um,
Oh, wow.
or even more, because the company already started. They started, the idea behind it. They were both. Gulam was Canadian. He was a Canadian engineer. He was living in San Diego, and Tim was. Well, he had his own company. He was a CFO of another company, and they decided to create this online tool where, because Gulam was here on a TN visa, and it was very difficult for him to get the TN visa. Attorneys were very expensive. It was hard to deal with them. So he came up with kind of like a the first version was a do-it-yourself process where they would almost sell like a checklist for Canadians who wanted to try to do the TN visa on their own. And that's kind of how it started. But what happened is that um, while they were selling the kit and the process, people had issues that were beyond. So, for example, some people were getting denied, some people were had criminal issues, and they couldn't apply directly. So, they needed an attorney to help with the clients that couldn't use the service. And so that's how they got to me, and I met with them. We met in a coffee shop in San Diego, and then we talked about it. And so what in the beginning, what they were doing, they were just sending me people as referrals. So clients who were not able to use um, the platform, they would come to us. And I realized at that time that this is because they had both of them were tech engineers. They were very good at SEO. They were getting a lot of traffic to this website, but they couldn't service all these people because they were just so that's kind of when I started thinking about it, like, oh wow, this is a whole different source of leads or people that have no idea who I am, but they could come to me because they come to this website trying to get some help, and then they realize they need an attorney. So I started to I came up with this idea where they would have a service for attorneys to review their packages before they go to the border, if anybody wanted to do that, so they could upgrade and use the attorney service to before they go to the border. So some people like that service, and they were paying, they were referred directly to the firm. They were paying us to review their documents, and then if they were good, they went to the border. If they needed help, we would fix it. So that's kind of like how the relationship was going, and I was helping them for several years as an advisor and as the attorney that they were referring, because in the beginning they had a network of lawyers that were doing these referrals in different states. And then their service, the level of service wasn't consistent with these attorneys. Right. And so eventually we were pretty much, we took over the whole review process for these attorneys. And so that's how I was working. That's kind of how I was working with them for the past several years. Yeah. And then, but what I realized is that, again, they had a very large database of clients over the years. They've been around for 17 years. They have very good domain authority for their website. And I realized that a lot of these clients need other services. They need perm. They need H-1Bs. They need E-2 visas. A lot of recruiters are using TN Visa Expert to find, we have a lot of recruiters that buy the kits to help nurses work in the United States. So I realized that there's a large database of clients that could be serviced by attorneys, but they're not. And that's where my idea was, well, what if I'm able to take over this company and then, use our systems to make it even better, but also add the attorney services to support it. And so I was talking to them for a while. And then at some point he decided he wanted to retire because he wanted to move to Mexico. And And so that's kind of where we started the whole negotiation about the acquisition, which took place in late 2003. I'm still kind of working the website and trying to add our services. But the idea behind it is that we'll create a job board as well, so we can match employers with TN visa holders, both from Mexico and Canada, and they'll be able to apply for the TN visa straight from the website. And also for clients that are, they want to upgrade their TN to an E2 visa or some other green card. So we'll be able to give them the tools to do that also directly from the website through automation and through different AI tools that we're building right now to support the website. So the idea is to expand it. Again, it has a very good traffic, and it's going to be able to support a larger volume of clients through this acquisition, which is the main reason why I've decided to do it.
So I want to. It's amazing, and so cool that for folks out there who maybe are advising some of these companies, or immigration lawyers who meet with, let's say, paralegal services or other non-lawyers that in the industry that they want to do something. This is a really nice lesson, I think, in just sticking it, working with them, sticking through with it, because you never know what can happen in the end.
Right.
So I want to break down a couple of things. This is really interesting. Initially this was a referral source, just purely, right? They had clients that came to them. They couldn't service them because they're not lawyers. They weren't happy with the different lawyers that were helping them at the time. You had the ability to handle all of their cases, and so you said, look, with us you'll get consistency. You're also local, so for what it's worth, excuse me, they can come to you face to face and say, Jacob, we need this or whatever. They can come talk to you. So it was just that. And you then realized, I guess, through working with them, that it wasn't only that they were bringing you business. They had assets sort of built into the business model, which was a highly optimized website from an SEO perspective. So high ranking, I guess, articles or, through various keywords, et cetera. And it sounds like there were also there was a network effect. So it wasn't just that they were bringing in potential clients. They also had these nodes, if you will, recruiters or other people that themselves had their own network. Correct. So a recruiter would have a ton of, this nursing recruiter would have a ton of nurses that they want to bring into the country. So it's like, you're not just getting the direct leads, but you're also getting their relationships that themselves have leads. So there's multiple layers.
Correct.
So I wanted to kind of go through that, because I think, to me, it seems that don't just look at a business on its face, right? Dig into it, understand what happens beneath the hood, understand who that business is connected to see the full sort of scope of opportunities. So I really like that, you stuck around with them to kind of figure all these things out over time. I guess let me ask you a question, because you clearly were helping them and you were doing you're performing your role as an attorney, but then your business hat came on, where you said, what if we can take over this practice? Obviously without disclosing sort of terms of this specific deal, what are some ways that an immigration law firm can think about acquiring a business like this? Because I ask this because when we hear business acquisition, we hear, Google buys a small tech company for $200 million, cash and stock options, right? Most law firms do not have many millions of dollars in cash laying around, and they can't give equity in the firm because, the rules for now are such that only lawyers can be equity holders in a law firm. So you cannot take on technical founders of a startup. Right. So what are some ways that lawyers, maybe who are in your position, or maybe who want to be in your position, that are inspired by you and what you've done, how can they think about, structuring or making an acquisition of a small business like this feasible?
So, I think when you are looking to take over something like that, it's important to look at a few factors. First of all, how is it going to impact the growth of the actual practice, the legal practice that you are currently having, right? That's number one. Number two, what it actually is that you're acquiring, right? So in this case, they, in addition to the website and the strong marketing and SEO that they have, they also have very good technology how they are distributing those kits. It's all automated. It's all like from the moment the customer purchases it to the moment they receive it, it's very, very seamless and automated. There's no humans involved at all. And so it helps. First of all, you can, in the back end, you can see when they open it, when they download it, how often they do it, and it gives you a lot of data, where they're from, why they're using it, which ports of entry they're going to. So that information was very helpful for us because we are practicing. We do a lot of TNs outside of this. So he told me as well where are these clients coming from, where they're applying the most, which ports of entry, and also we give them. Part of the service was that if they get denied, they have to give us the report of why they were denied, and they will get half of the money back, because that data is so important for TN Visa Expert. So we can improve not only the kits, but also the information we give clients as they apply for these for the TNs, right? So we knew which port of entry are getting more hassle. We knew what hours of the day they should cross. This data was also collected by TN Visa Expert, which was super important for me, and that's again another reason why I wanted to be able to have them as part of our portfolio. So in terms of structuring it, there are different ways you can do it. So one way is you can break down the deal over several years of payments to the founders of the So for example, you give them a lump sum, and then you say we break down the payments over the next 4 or 5 years. Another way is you basically acquire it outright by paying a lower amount, you negotiate a lower amount. Another way is that you acquire it and you take over 1 or 2 of the founders and you pay them salary for 2 or 3 years, with an agreed amount, irrespective of of what they do over there. So there's just different ways to structure it depending on if you need them there, or your cash flow, or the size of the business that you're taking over. So I think if whoever's on it, it also depends on the motivation of the person on the other side. So in this case, I knew that he wanted to retire, and I wanted to make it easier for him to retire and make sure that he has enough financial support as he transitions to another country. So we're able to negotiate a deal accordingly. So there's just different ways. It depends on the business, and it depends on why you are actually taking over. Like I said, in our case, there are many benefits to doing that, because now I have the data, I have the technology that I can continue to scale into the TN space. And also I'm able to now, using our marketing and our automation, to sell more other services like E2 visas and NIW, EB2 for a lot of these entrepreneurs that are here on TN visas, and also be able to work with recruiters and other companies that be using consistently the TN visa kits. Now we can work with them as attorneys, offer them other services. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to doing it this way, and specifically for this acquisition for us.
Do you think that a lot of this is kind of like business school, right? I mean, you could look up different ways of
Right.
financing a business. Do you think that immigration lawyers, let's put aside solo and very small firms. I mean, these are practices that are focused on doing their work. There's, my assumption is that they're not thinking
Yeah.
about business acquisition. But let's say kind of a more of a mid-sized firm, a firm that's
Yeah.
of your size. You have a sales division. You have automation where you can handle volume
Of
increases.
course. Yeah.
Do you think that immigration attorneys that are mid-size and want to grow, that they should be not just thinking about growth through getting the next big client or whatever, but also growth through acquisition of these kind of niche businesses within our industry?
I personally think yes, because at the end of the day, you're going to see more and more innovation in this industry, right? And it's not new. I mean, it's been going on for the past 10 years. As I mentioned before, Simple Citizen, companies like that I was involved personally. But there are other companies like you can see Boundless, and they acquired Rapid Visa. which was just basically an online service to process K1 and marriage cases. So there's plenty of companies who do that, very small companies who do online, do it yourself. I think it's really important to understand that consumers these days are not necessarily interested to work just with lawyers. And the reason is because sometimes lawyers are not that easy to work with. Maybe just like the hurdles of just working with a law firm. Sometimes the concept of, oh, I can do it easier with this online service, and there's going to be more and more of these online services coming up to do all kind of stuff. You've got services that do vows right now. You've got file your own marriage case stuff, different versions of that. So the point is that these services are not going away. There's going to be more improvements of that with using AI tools. So I think attorneys should be aware and say, okay, so if I'm going to try to expand my practice and I'm actually I'm able to access some of these services either because they reach out or because you want to be proactive and reach out, then the idea is like, what is the benefit to you as a mid-sized firm to work with these guys versus an advisor, maybe eventually find a way to, eventually maybe even do an acquisition. Depends on how far you want to take your own firm, because some of these tools that you actually acquire, you can use them in your own firm to make your services better. Like some of the tools that we took from TM Visa Expert, we're now able to use in our own firm, both in terms of automation, but also in terms of SEO practice and other things that they're doing that we were not doing before, and now I'm able to implement into our own practice. So there's a lot of, again, these are considerations that I do before I decide to take over a company. And as you know, Roman, and I told you that in confidence before, right now I'm in the process of acquiring a much bigger entity, which we can talk about probably in the future episode once everything is confirmed and I'm able to talk about it. But I'm in the process right now of acquiring an international company that is in the space of startup immigration, and that is going to be first of all a huge step forward in our firm and the area where I'm planning to enter in this space. And so again, and the reason why I decided to do this is because I realized it's the right opportunity right now. There's a vacuum in the space, and it's time for us to jump in there and make an impact. So it's also about timing, the right people, and an opportunity for you to be able to do it in a very. And again, these things, it's also about taking risks, right? Because not everything works. I've done a few deals like that in the past that didn't work, and I lost money. But that's part of the deal, right? It's like, if you're not going to try, and if you're not going to be, and nobody knows about those because they're not publicized, but they happened before, and they didn't work, and I lost a lot of money. But I learned a lot of things in the process. I learned what not to do. I learned what to check. I learned who to trust, who not to trust. So those things led me to these deals that are actually working well, and to the future one that I just mentioned to you now. And I'll be able to share more about it next podcast when we do it, when it's public. But those things help you not only scale your firm, but also make it more interesting. Because think about it. There are many immigration attorneys who tell me that they're tired of practicing. After 20 years, 25 years, they get bored, they get frustrated, they get, it's almost like you have to do it because you have to earn a living to support your family and your team. And that's not how I want to live my life. I want to be able to enjoy, traveling, be able to leave the office. We talked about it before, the episodes where, how I'm able to run my practice where I don't really have to be there all the time. And I'm able to, I'm leaving to New Zealand literally this weekend for 2 weeks. And I'm not worried that my office is going to collapse because everybody's working and everything's, moving along. And so I think that's kind of all part of it. It's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to, it's kind of like, the way I see it is I first look at what kind of lifestyle I want to live, what kind of employees I want to have, what kind of, income I want to be able to generate. And then once I have that in my mind, in my vision, then I actually take the steps to achieve it. It's not the other way around. You know what I mean? So first I say, I want to be able to have the freedom to not be at the office every day. I want to be able to travel, 6-7 times a year internationally. I want to be able to have all these employees doing what they're supposed to do, happy employees that are empowered, and then I take the steps to do it. You know what I mean? It's kind of in
Yep.
reverse. And most people are like, oh my God, this is this. But most people are working in reverse. They are they want to be able to live the lifestyle. They want to be able to do, but they don't have a plan of action.
Right.
It all stays in their head. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's important to take bold moves, especially in our industry, because immigration industry in the next 5 years, if you want to talk predictions, I feel like the immigration law industry is going to quadruple in many ways. First of all, in the need for the services. I listened to this podcast, Nomadic Capitalist. I don't know if you heard of this guy.
I have. Yep. Yep.
And he, I don't agree with a lot of the things that he, he's kind of like anti-American. He gave up his passport. He lives in, Malaysia. But what I like about what he said, he's like, people will go where they're treated best. And as much as there's criticism about the US, we're still one of the best countries in the world for many, many things like entrepreneurship and startup, raising capital. And so people are going to still come here because they know that they're going to be able to get what they need and they're going to be treated best for what they do. And so immigration attorneys must be ready to receive the influx of these particular people coming in the United States, companies. And the only way you can do that is by automating, by investing in technology for your practice, and also by taking care of yourself as a practitioner. You cannot be stressed all the time. You cannot be working, 14 hours a day. You have to take care of yourself. You have to, invest in your health, in your well-being. This is all part of an equation, right? It's not just one thing. Let's get all these clients. Let's make money. It's all a circle. You have to take care of yourself. You have to invest in your people, and you have to, think about the future of technology or whatever it is to improve your business. That's all connected. So that's why I think acquiring these new businesses and getting to M&A in our space is going to be very important moving forward in the next 5 years. And I'll continue to do that, which, as I said, I'm in the middle of it now with this new deal. And so and personally for me, it's exciting. It keeps me motivated to do it, right? Instead of just
you're learning more. You pick up new skills and new, you become more of a business person, let's say. I would say
Absolutely.
After 15, 20 years, you've got the immigration lawyer thing down. What other skills can you stack on top of that?
Right. Well, it's not just business skills. It's also like, if you think about it, it's when you're working with technology companies. And I remember, back in the day when I first got involved with for example, Simple Citizens. So you've got this. All of them were like young people, like in their early 20s, and then you come in and it's like you feel this influx of youth coming through your body, and there are all these ideas, and also with some of the these new acquisitions that I'm doing right now, a lot of them are young people in their late 20s who are building these amazing technologies in our space, and so it kind of gives you this almost like a shot of youth in you, and say, oh my God, this is what I was 20 years ago, and I'm now back in this space, and I'm trying to, create something new. So I think it's important to keep yourself on your toes and give you this energy to continue to create, because we lose our momentum, and I think immigration attorneys are watching this podcast. They probably will feel it. They say, I'm doing this for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years. I'm losing my passion. I can't see these forms anymore. I can't draft these pleadings anymore. I can't stand USCIS inside USCIS. I haven't been inside USCIS probably in over 4 years, which is great, because I couldn't stand it. Towards the end, I just couldn't. You have to. I'm excited to go back now and do it here and there. I'm it's nice that you don't have to do it all the time. You can do it when you choose. I think that's really where it is, because we're human beings, right? We are human beings, and we are attorneys, but we're also human beings, and we cannot be good attorneys if we're not relaxed, if you don't feel good in our life outside of work, and then clients will feel that. You know what I mean? Like my clients, I sit in front of my clients and like, how are you so relaxed? I feel zen next to you. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, it's just I am who I am where I am because
Yeah.
I make it a priority because I think it's
Right.
important.
I want to take a very quick pause just to, as we're talking about technology companies and startups, I want to thank our second sponsor for this episode, DocketWise, which, started off as
I use them as
very
well.
much, yeah, and there you go. And that's unplanned. So that just goes to show, how the depth of DocketWise in the industry. So for those who don't know, DocketWise is an all-in-one case management system. They have best-in-class immigration forms, which a lot of different firms use them. They have customizable questionnaires, integrations with all sorts of platforms from MyCase, which acquired them, to LawPay, and many, many others, and great customer service. What I personally also like about DocketWise, as a content creator myself, is they have a really great blog. They have a newsletter that I'm subscribed to and read. They have a new podcast as well. They have ebooks. They have so much content for the industry. So to your point, Jacob, DocuWise does a really good job of educating the industry. So for folks who may not use DocketWise but are interested in them, check out docketwise.com and tell them that you heard about them from the GMI Rocket Show, or use the link in the show description. So I thought that was a good opportunity there.
It was
I want to.
perfect.
I don't want to hold you for too much longer, Jacob. But I love this topic because I think it all ties together. One of the things that I've done in the past couple of years with talking about immigration technology and just the marketing and the business development within the immigration industry is talk about mindset. I've talked to a number of immigration attorneys who are interested in technology. They want to build their practice, whether through tech or through marketing, but they, for one reason or another, don't think that, they're worthy of it. Maybe they don't believe, they're not confident in themselves and that they can, actually be a technology person, right? A tech guy or a tech person, right? And so I feel like the idea of, stepping away from the practice, it doesn't mean shutting down your firm, but figuring out a way where you can step out of the day-to-day grind that weighs so heavily on immigration attorneys, especially because the work is so important. If you could find a way to do that, you can start to sort of lower those cortisol levels, right? Like de-stress a little bit, and then B, open up opportunities for new ideas, even crazy ideas. What if I did go on TikTok and made some videos? What could my brand be? What can that do for my business? What if I did spend some energy learning about new technologies? What if I took a course on AI? Tell that to an immigration lawyer. They're going to say, you're crazy. I don't have time to take a course on AI. Well, maybe you should restructure your firm a little bit to give yourself back some time so you can take a course on AI and learn about it and see what you can do. So I love this idea. I guess, you've talked a little bit about, your desire to, be relaxed and take care of yourself. What are some ways, for folks who are listening, I guess, what are some ways that you've done that with the firm? So I know there's automation, but is there also hiring attorneys that handle the, in-person appearances? Is it, I know you have a lot of different funnels. You've used chatbots for intake. Can you talk just a little bit about some of those things that you do so that listeners can get an idea of what they can do in their business, in their firm?
So I think it's important from like early on to build a good team, right? So a team that you can trust, and so many people either email me or when I talk to other attorneys, they're like, well, I can't trust anyone. I have to do everything myself. You have to trust at some point, and you have to be good at hiring people. Like I have people that are working in my firm with me for over 15 years. You build hierarchy at the firm. Somebody who manages the day-to-day operation, somebody who manages the different divisions, other attorneys that do different things. And as you grow, you hire more people and you trust them. So I think it's very important to do that, because if you don't, if you are the bottleneck of your firm, then you're not going to be able to let go, and it's going to get worse and worse. So I think it's really important to invest in good people, train them early and train them well. And just trust. You have to really trust people, and so, because if they feel that you trust them, you let go, you don't micromanage, they will do a good job to run the firm, and that goes both for attorneys that work for you, or paralegals, or case managers, or so I think that's, for me, that's the only way I can do it, because I have I think I have really good people at the firm. I mean, I trust them all. You know, like I said, it feels like a family there, and it's the only way that I can do it. So, you know, automation is one thing, technology is another, but you have to also have good people that are able to do the work, and this way, kind of, you spread the load. Because sometimes, you know, the other people at the firm, they get stressed out, they need to go home, they have families, kids, you know, everybody has issues. So if one of them is not available, the other is taking over, and so it's it's everybody has a role. And I think that's important to invest. So even if you're a small firm, even if you're like 2 or 3 people, empower the other people who are there with you to do other things that you can take, maybe even like 3 hours here and there, just to stay home, or meditate, or do whatever you want to do outside of work. Because like I said, it's a stressful area, and the more you do it without finding a way to de-stress, or to find a way to offload the work, then at some point it's going to get to you. 5 years in, 10 years in, 15 years in, it's going to be tough. So building a good team, training them properly, giving them the empowerment to do what they're supposed to do is essential, especially in immigration law, because we're very client centric, where clients call all the time. I want to talk to this, I want to talk to that. It's important to build, to train them also how to set boundaries, how to deal with clients, because especially in a high volume practice, people call all the time. They want to speak. They need information. So sending them updates on a regular basis, making sure you're in touch with clients. So many complaints. You know, like I do the TikTok lives, and people in their lives are complaining. My attorney hasn't called me back for 2 weeks. My attorney is
Mhm.
ignoring me. These are biggest complaints. And the reason why these attorneys are doing that is because they're probably understaffed, they're overwhelmed, and they choose to run away from the problem, right? So that's not a solution, because I mean, I just had a case yesterday. Somebody called me and they said our 601 waiver was denied, and the attorney is nowhere to be found. He's not calling them back. It's
Wow.
insane. You know what I mean? So I think the reason why it's happening, to especially in the immigration space, is because a lot of attorneys are just, they're overwhelmed. They have too many cases. They don't hire enough people. They don't understand the importance of having good staff, hierarchy of hiring, how to do this properly. They don't invest enough in their staff, um, and so that's where the problems start. You know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
think that's the key. You know, invest in your team early on, build systems, and separate yourself from your practice as soon as you can, and just do the things that you really enjoy doing and you're good at. If you want to go to court, just go to court. You're not supposed to be running the practice. If you like to be in court, if you enjoy doing perms, then work on the perms. Have somebody else do the other things. You know what I mean? Um, that's my philosophy, and that's how we run our team.
So I want to end on a particular question that I've been asking a lot of my recent guests. Right now today we talked about this TN Visa expert acquisition and just some of your thoughts about running a practice and mindset as a sort of growing attorney. You're in the middle of another acquisition, which, as you said, I hope we'll get a chance to bring you on again as the first three-peat guest and talk about that acquisition and sort of the
For
industry
sure.
that you're going to be in with that. What is you're sort of
Mm.
doing new things right now, like you said, with this acquisition, it's a bigger one, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm sure you're learning along the way. What is some of the advice that you are currently listening to in your head as you go through your where your practice is today? What's the advice that you are using today, that you're telling yourself, to get through whatever you're going through today?
Um, so what I heard this on a podcast. I forgot who was the guy who said it, but I've been doing this, and it's called the King Solomon method.
Hmm.
And King Solomon, he was, as you know, he was one of the most he was a wise king. He did a lot of things based on intuition, and also he was giving a lot of advice to people around him. So the way I do it is that I have like a WhatsApp number that is like another one of my numbers, and I am basically texting myself as if I'm in the future. So it's kind of like my it's Jacob, who is now 10 years forward. and I'm texting
Mhm.
myself. So I'm sending a text to this number, the King Solomon account, and I'm asking what should I do with this case, or what should I do now? And so the advice is basically focused on a few things. First of all, is it's really important to take risks now more than ever, especially in 2024. And so that's one of the things that I was texting myself. Don't question, don't second guess yourself. So King Solomon strategy would be, don't second guess and follow your gut. If you feel gut feeling, if something is right, do it. Also, trust people more. I used to be a little bit of hesitant of trusting certain people, or just kind of having this, and just give people credit before, like, if they don't disappoint you, give them 100%. Start 100%, and if they start disappointing, start chipping into that credit. So that's some of the things. So I do this practice where I don't work well by taking advice from other people. I used to have coaches and mentors, but I never really followed their advice because I never feel that they really understand me. So by doing this King Solomon thing, I'll essentially text myself advice as if I was already 10 years ahead. And I would be texting Jacob today and say, "Hey, Jacob, you should do the following." And it's a very interesting practice because, I mean, you're your best, you know yourself best, right? And you're always going to be truthful to yourself. You're not going to give yourself lies. And so the advice that I text myself in those messages is very authentic, very raw, and sometimes it's hard to read, but it works. And so for me, that's what I do basically. I use that mindset of take risks, trust yourself more, and remember, these things are the things that you want to achieve. You have to already see, like, envision the lifestyle, envision your law firm the way you want it. Just literally envision it, and then start taking action steps towards that goal as if it already happened, right? But that practice of doing those advice to myself has been very effective, and I keep doing it, and it's very interesting how it works.
Is it a way for you to separate yourself from yourself in a way? You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if you are looking at yourself, like if I look at my 30-year-old self, right, it was a different person, a whole different person. And so the person that I was in my 30s is not the person I am today. And so if I was able to go back and say, "Hey, you shouldn't do this, you should be more this and that," I would. But obviously, it doesn't work like that, right? So if I'm now, at my age right now, and I'm looking 10 years ahead, I am able to say things. Listen, do this and this and this, and those are things that are really deep and raw. And some of them are, maybe I won't act on those recommendations, but some of them I am acting on them, and I'm actually working on them as I'm going through this deal, as I'm working with dealing with my staff whenever there are crises, and even in my personal life. So that is actually a very good practice for me. It works well for me. Some other people, they're doing well by getting advice from others, but for me, it doesn't. It just I'm not. I don't. I'm not able to receive advice from others, and so for me, that is a good way to do it.
Interesting. That's really cool.
King
I've never
Solomon.
heard of it.
I
Yeah.
mean, you should try it. You should try it and see if it works for you, because again, it's not going to work for everyone. For me, it's a very deep exercise, and now since I'm in it, it's been very helpful, both in my business and in personal life as well.
Thank you for sharing that. I haven't heard that method, but it sounds really interesting. It actually sounds kind of difficult. I feel like I would be nervous, even though I'm only texting myself. I'd be nervous to maybe put into writing the things that I'm thinking already, because when you put it into
Exactly.
writing, you almost bring it to life in a way. You make it
Absolutely.
real.
That's why it's
Yeah.
so hard. In the beginning, it was
Yeah.
actually very, um, I would say, emotional. Like the first
Mhm.
3 weeks that I've done it, it was very emotional. But then I realized that I'm actually looking into a reality that I'm not willing to see,
Mhm.
and and when you do it, it becomes very effective if you choose to act on it, which I've been acting on.
Amazing. Thank you. This is really eye-opening. I love this. Jacob, thank you so much. I appreciate you as always coming on and sharing what you're working on. And I hope that this serves as an inspiration for other immigration attorneys and really anybody running the business and thinking about how to grow it, whether through acquisition or through self-development or through, marketing, and so many things to learn from in this episode. So really appreciate you. Good luck. I really, looking forward to good news for this, new deal, and please come back on the show and, we'll talk about it when you're ready and
That'll be
willing.
fun to announce it. And, I think, like I said, 2024 is going to be a great year for immigration practice. And I'm excited to what's coming ahead of us.
Amen. Cool. Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate it.
Always. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was an amazing episode. I don't even know how to follow that with my own thoughts. I don't have any. I'm going to try this King Solomon method and look into it. Thank you, everybody who's tuning in, whether you're watching live or listening to this afterwards. Really appreciate you being here. Just want to give a quick thank you again to Lex Reception, the main sponsor of this episode. Very quickly, Lex Reception is a legal intake reception and client support service. They provide 24/7 legal answering specialists. So you, as an immigration lawyer, do not have to worry about missing a call or email from a prospect. They can proactively reach out to prospects. They can integrate with your existing tech stack. And for GMI Rocket Show listeners, they offer $250 off your first month of service. So check out the link in the description of the show, or reach out to Lex Reception and tell them you heard about them on the GMI Rocket Show. With that, thank you, everybody. I'm going to take a few weeks off as I'm traveling internationally for some conferences and stuff. Maybe I'll do some episodes from abroad. Thank you, Shweta. Great conversation. God bless you both. Thank you, Shweta. Really appreciate your comment. Thank you for listening. I might try to do some episodes from abroad, but if not, see you all in about a month and a half. In the meantime, go back, listen to Jacob's first episode, listen to other episodes of the show. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, and stay safe out there, everybody. Peace out.